There are some other stories, though, involving this race, and earlier, our pit reporter Greg Creamer and our expert commentator David Hobbs filed these reports.
Prior to this event, SYLVAIN TREMBLAY had three pole positions and 2 wins in his Mazda RX-7 Turbo, but that was on the wide-open circuits like Watkins Glen and Road Atlanta. SYLVAIN, the streets here are anything but wide and sweeping. Is that turbo going to be a problem for you here?
It definitely, it hurts us because we don't have the grunt of the V8 powered cars like the Mustangs and the Firebirds. So our car is light and nimble, and I hope that it helps us in the twisty stuff. You know, we did a lot of testing on the fast sweeping stuff, and that's what we've had our victories, and we've done the best. This is my second time on a street course, a lot more learning to do, and we'll just see. Hopefully the weekend will unroll, and we can keep our momentum going. That's a big thing in this sport, is momentum.
Well, he seems pretty confident. Over to you, Greg.
Well, David, this is something you don't see very often. A team owner that's right down there making sure the car's pretty as well as fast. This is Paul Hacker, who, of course, with his brother, have made up the Hacker Express over the years. This is your second season driving Fords in the IMSA Endurance Championship. Must feel good to be a part of what Ford is accomplishing, particularly this year.
This year's been a really great year for Ford. Last year was a pretty good year for the Hacker Express. My brother and I, with our Zero car, the car that we're not running this weekend, accomplished more miles than anybody else in IMSA Endurance with one specific car. Many teams have more than one car and jump from car to car. This year we created a new car, the Double Zero, and I'm trying it out this weekend. And we were 4th in that first qualifying stint, and it looks like it's going to be good. The new car may be better than the old car.
Well, it sure looks nice, but I got to tell you, Paul, you missed a spot.
Come on, Greg, give the guy a break, please. I'm here with the first IMSA Endurance champions to be crowned this year. Eric Van Cleef, winner of the sports division. Tell us how you feel about clinching the championship by virtue of your pole position and the 1 point that gives you.
Oh, I tell you what, Calvin, it feels great. We came down here really not expecting to get the pole. You know, we didn't think the car would be that good at a tight circuit like this. The front-wheel drive cars have a little better acceleration off the corners, but you know, we got here and the car was wonderful. Being a rear-wheel drive car, we were able to dance the car through the corners, and we're just having a lot of fun and able to put it on the pole. It feels great.
6 wins this year so far, and a couple more to go. What are your plans for 1997?
You know, clinching the championship here, we're really hoping to move up into a Super Turbo for Grand Sports next year. We'd like to be the first team to do that. We think we can win some races there. And, you know, I'm a loyal Toyota supporter. I think they got a great car, and I'd like to stick with them.
Good luck today.
Thank you very much, Calvin.
The streets and access roads around the Reunion Arena here in Dallas have been turned into a 1.3-mile, 9-turn road course, and mix in these factors: a narrow racetrack, 52 cars, and rain. As we take a look at the starting grid, once again, Tremblay qualified for the pole, his 4th of the year, but his teammate VARDE will start that car. The second outside that front row will be Doug Goad. In the second row, Jason Priestley and his Mustang out of Hollywood, California, and Bernie Cochran will start outside the second row. In the third row, it's Stu Hayner and Steve Pepper. In the fourth row, Chuck Cottrell and Rob Walton. And in the fifth row, it's Bennett Durance and Craig Conway. As we take a look at the rest of the starting lineup, the top 16 drivers are in the Grand Sport class, 21 of the top 24. But David Hobbs, we actually have 4 divisions running in this one event.
Sport, touring and compact as they take the green flag. As you said earlier, it's going to be very, very slick here on the streets of Dallas. This is actually a huge car park, the area they're going through at the moment. And this is turn 1, as you can see, very, very tight. And I expect there's been a lot of indecision this afternoon as to what tires for these guys to use, because they obviously use street radials. Most of the time they're shaved down because you get a much better grip on a dry track. But if it's going to rain a lot, and we hear there's big rain coming, a lot of them will choose to go on the full groove tire.
David, obviously this is the worst case scenario because it's really intermittent right now. Before the off, the drivers were really in conjecture with the crew chief as to what tires to run, whether to go with the dry tires or a full wet. And this is the worst case scenario for drivers. This is going to be a 3-hour event. They don't want to have to pit early and change tires. They hope that they made the right decision.
But the weather forecast is calling for first intermittent rain. You can see it's starting to rain harder now, and just before the green flag fell, the report was heavy rain on the west side of Dallas. Very heavy rain. That should make the decision to go to the rain tires easier.
I think so. I mean, obviously it's better to try and baby some rain tires under these conditions and try and get around on almost slick racing tires. Admittedly, they're down like 2 or 3 30 seconds, which gives them a little bit of a groove to disperse the water, but essentially a slick racing tire here. And here we're watching Jason Priestley really go after that car in front of him. This is a good battle right now.
Yeah, and Priestley in that white number 46 Mustang goes around Bernie Cochran in the burgundy number 3. Priestley has really impressed a lot of folks. So often an actor out of Hollywood gets a taste of racing through some celebrity events, and because they go racing, they're not always that competitive. But he's been very impressive with his learning curve.
Wow, we've seen some more overtaking there. The number 3 car of Burnell, COCHRAN, slipping back through the field here. 46 car, as you say, Priestley, of course, the absolute shining example of Hollywood stardom behind the wheel, being Paul Newman, who didn't start racing until he was 46. Actually turned out to be a pretty good, in fact, an extremely good race driver, and would have done just as well as a race driver as he did as an actor, I think, if he'd started earlier.
They pull up along what is Interstate 35. This is an access road. And
Stu Hayner there, I think, making a move on Jason Priestley there as we get around this first couple of laps here. And Jason is doing a good, solid job. He's holding down 3rd position right now and doing a solid job. Scott Maxwell is his co-driver for the last 2 or 3 events. And he's really put Jason up to speed now. And it's good when you get a good co-driver alongside. It really brings the most out of you.
Upper right of your screen, you can see the Reunion Arena, the home of the Dallas Mavericks. There's a big banner hanging on the arena saying the Dallas Mavericks under construction. They've had some lean years down here. They've made some personnel changes. Now they come down Hotel Street, which is the fastest part of this racetrack, before going to a very tight right-hander past the start-finish line, then negotiate their way through what had been a parking lot. This track being designed by Alan Wilson of Wilson Motorsports. He is the husband of race driver Desiree Wilson, and Alan has designed a number of the temporary courses, like the one at Columbus and at Denver, at Minnesota, as well as here in Dallas.
He's done a pretty good job here. See, it's compact, this course. It's jammed into between the freeways. You can see you've got freeways on one side and railway on the other. There's the 13 car. That is Bill Black and Joe Kent driving the Oldsmobile Achiever. So that might bring out, let's hope it doesn't, but it could bring out a full course caution. But they're right in the middle of the fastest part of this racetrack. There's a right-hand sweep as it goes along the side of I-35 there, and it's a bit narrow.
Unlucky 13 for Black. Black is in the cockpit. He was the starting driver. You can see the damage to both the front and the back. As you can see, the rain now harder. Look at the front of number 25. A lot of front-end damage to Danaher's touring car number 25.
Yeah, that's
he might be shedding some parts along the roadway.
Well, luckily they're Honda parts, and I know just the place where he can go and replace those with.
Let me guess. Somebody in this booth must have a Honda store someplace in this country.
I can't imagine who, but I know it's not Gary Lee, and I know it's not Calvin.
It's a long way to Milwaukee there. Hopefully this one a little closer. Hopefully it's a little tight there. You can see the corner workers signaling to the drivers. You'll see a yellow flag, but these corner workers do an excellent job of giving as much information to the drivers when there's a problem out there.
And of course the visibility down to a minimal right now, as we're going to take this break and come back with more rain and more racing from Dallas.
Serious damage to your engine can happen during startups when your engine is cold. So for a motor oil to protect your engine, it must get to work fast. Exxon Superflow Synthetic Blend does. It also protects better against thermal breakdown, yet is less expensive than full synthetics. A difference you can see. Exxon Superflow Synthetic Blend. Protection beyond conventional oils for all the ways you drive.
Pick up the phone and call now for your free complimentary issue of Motor Trend magazine, the world's automotive authority. Peterson's Motor Trend tells it like it is, with conclusive reports and comparisons on the world's best new import and domestic luxury cars, sports cars, pickups, vans, and sport utility vehicles. If you really love cars, you need to test drive the ultimate automotive magazine, risk-free. Just call now and reserve your free introductory copy of Motor Trend. If you like what you see, you can order a 12-issue subscription for only $9.97. That's 71% off the newsstand price. It's easy. We'll bill you. If you choose not to subscribe, simply return the bill marked cancel. You'll owe nothing, and the free issue is yours with our compliments. Peterson's Motor Trend magazine is the world's automotive authority. Check us out. Call now for your free introductory issue.
Gary Lee along with David Hobbs, Greg Kramer, and Calvin Fish here in Dallas as we take a look at that track description, David.
Well, as you can see, going into turn one, very, very tight, narrow corner, so a lot of bunching up going into there, downhill down to turn two, which is a fast right-hand sweep, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6, as you can see, a very, very tight sort of chicane there. But then out of 6, we got another downhill run through 7 and 8. 7's where we just saw the Oldsmobile Achiever hit the wall. So that's a quick right-hand sweep. And down to 8 and 9. 9's very interesting because it's got brick overlay and concrete and asphalt, and it's very, very, very off camber. Slippery as old Nick, I think, in a day like today. And then out of 9, you've got a bit of an uphill climb, and then finally across the start-finish line where there's a very big bump just before that finish line. So all in all, a pretty interesting combination for these guys this afternoon.
Well, the Bill Black Oldsmobile Achiever has been pulled off the race course. That is the reason we have this yellow right now. As you can see, the rain has let up ever so slightly, but the track is slick. There is some concern, guys, about some ponding out there, which is very dangerous.
Well, it's tough, especially when you got this much traffic out there and you change line and you may be on a part of the racetrack that you haven't encountered before, and suddenly if there's a lot of standing water, you obviously lose your steering momentarily. So it's really tough for these guys that out there right now, but they probably realize there's going to be a lot of caution periods with this type of conditions on a street circuit, and the name of the game is just to maintain position, obviously not go a lap down and try and be there for the last hour or so.
Joe VARDE will lead under yellow as we go back to racing. Joe, a winner of 23 events here in IMSA competition. He is now second in make that third in the point standings out of Charlotte, North Carolina, formerly of Tampa, Florida.
Because the other thing, like any wet race, of course, one of the big problems, especially for the guys towards the back, of course, is spray. I mean, they just kick up the most inordinate amount of spray, and as you can see, of course, these are street stops, so they do have windscreen wipers, but still in all, they get hot inside and they tend to mist up, and then, of course, it's very difficult for the driver then once they start to mist up.
You can see the 32 car there in second position. That's Stu Hayner that started that car.
Stu's one of the most experienced guys out here today, and I'm sure he's seen it all, including street circuits and including wet weather. So he'll be one to watch. Very experienced, very wily in these cars, and he's probably going to try and put some pressure on VARDE right now and see if he can make him make a mistake early.
Well, Stu's teammate John Heinrich is now leading the point standings for Grand Sports in the 32 Pontiac. In fact, right now there's a good battle between Ford and Pontiac for the Manufacturers Cup. Ford showing 166 points, Pontiac 153. Of course, Pontiac won the manufacturer's title last year.
This is that turn 3. That's turn 3 there at the top of the picture. This is 4 they're just going through here. This is 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the restarts in this race are going to be at turn 6, which you might think is a slightly odd position to have it. But the field's all going to be bunched up in this chicane so that we won't get everybody arriving down at turn 8 all at the same time. So the idea of that, of course, was to get the field slowed up through 3, 4, 5.
We heard the earlier comments from SYLVAIN TREMBLAY about not thinking that turbo was a great advantage in this racetrack, but then after qualifying yesterday, he kind of liked the idea of having the turbo because he said it really shot the car off the corner. He got some good bite and good thrust off these tight corners.
And it obviously seems to be working very well in the rain. Of course, that is a twin turbo, so they get good progressive power input, but even so, in a wet day like today, Joe VARDE is doing a heck of a job with that twin turbo motor up front. There you see them going into that 8-9 complex. You can just see how off camera it is. This is that big bump right there. Look over the thing. They almost get airborne there in the dry. They probably do. But that's a place where it could puddle up too if it rains a lot.
Of course, the organizers have to be shaking their head. This has been one of the driest summers on record here in the Lone Star State. So we come to Labor Day weekend and we have a gully washer.
That's right, and right now what you're seeing the drivers do is experiment with their line around the racetrack. Typically the racing line is the slickest when you have wet conditions. A lot of oil and rubber is laid down there. Obviously on a street circuit is only used one time a year. It's not such a factor, but we saw Joe braking in the middle of the track there for turn 1, feeling there's a little more bite.
You see the 5 car going through. That's Rob Walton streaming through this turn 4. It's a pretty tight chicane here. You can see that the rain, they've all got rain tires because they're sucking up the water there. They're all leaving tire tracks, but they're just hoping like heck, I'm sure, that the rain is going to go away. But as you can see, it's raining pretty hard now.
But during that yellow, we had wholesale pit stops, and we've got a spin right there, car number 94.
That's Lean Fulf and Carl Holcher from Dallas, from Arizona, in their Honda Accord.
But a number of these race teams chose to start the race on the shaved tire. Went about 3 laps, the yellow came out, and they were all in to change the full tread.
That's right, you lose so much ground when it gets a lot of water on the track when you're effectively running on slicks that, I mean, you're really going to lose seconds and seconds per lap. It's a 3-hour event, and we actually saw the number 1 car of Andy Pilgrim come in and make some changes to his car. So he was obviously willing to let go some track position there in exchange for getting a car that's going to handle better for the remainder of the 3 hours.
Well, of course, it is a long race. So obviously you can get handling, but boy, oh boy, it is a long race. And look at the lead that Joe VARDE has got already. This is the car that Sylvain Tremblay was telling me at the top of the show. He was a bit worried about it being not suited to the street course. Not only is it a street course, now it's a wet street course. You'd think just the worst thing for a twin turbo. And look at the ground he's putting on that second place car.
The twin turbo really can guzzle the fuel. And first of all, we talked to Tremblay. He said, well, maybe if we have lots of yellows, we can go on one stop. So if he can gain this big of an advantage for one stop, it's going to be their race to win.
And of course the rain too will help them with their fuel. They won't use anything like the fuel in the rain as they would in the dry, because in spite of the fact that he's pulling away, he's still not using the fuel he would do if it was dry. Look at the field packing up. Ooh,
Priestley's getting some heat right there from Bernie.
Cochran having a look down the inside. But different lines there, and you can see he's down the inside, and then maybe
Jason
a chance
let him go.
Jason let him through there, obviously wise. He just wants to keep track position. He's got a great co-driver sitting in the pit, Scott Maxwell, who's extremely fast, and if Jason can just hold it down in the top 10 in this early going, they should be in good shape for the rest of the way.
What were you saying about Maxwell having to slow him? Oh, we've got some problems on the left front of car number 33.
That's Mike Weinberg and Joe Aquilini there, so obviously they had severe contact with the wall somewhere around the racetrack.
Terry McDonald started that car.
Okay, and we're looking at Jason Priestley once again. I think he may be down to 4th position right now. I think we saw the number.
Cochran went by him for 3rd.
Now he's coming under pressure from the 5 car, which is being driven by Rob Walton.
Rob Walton, of course, of the Walmart family, as he's up there in 5th position right now as we take a look at the rain and the top 5 in the Grand Prix of Dallas on a wet Labor Day weekend.
East Drag Racing's King of Speed, Kenny Bernstein. Follow his quest to go faster than ever in Diamond P Sports, the King of Speed. From funny car to top fuel, NASCAR to the Indy Circuit, Bernstein's dominance is legendary. The first dragster over 300 miles per hour, and one of the luckiest to walk away from summer racing's wildest moments. Experience the speed for just $19.95. To order, call 1-800-704-1133 or write to the address on your screen. Find out why they call Kenny Bernstein the King of Speed.
You see the NASCAR fan that is really committed.
They'll be sitting in the grandstands probably at 7 o'clock in the morning, even if it's pouring down raining. They'll drive 6 hours to meet you for 2 minutes.
Well, the word I think that sticks out in my mind is loyal.
When they go to the grocery store, they look for the products that sponsor race cars.
Loyalty is what a NASCAR fan is all about.
NASCAR fans, it's true. You're the best in all of sports.
Back now in Dallas as you see the work continuing on number 33. As we went to break, we showed you the left front damage to Terry McDaniel's car. And we'll go back now and take a look at what transpired on the race course. And you can see right there, she got high coming through that right-hander, a sweeping right-hander. Made contact, so the work continues in the pit lane.
Well, I'm down here standing by with Terry. Terry, what happened out there?
There's a car in the wall. I think he put some oil down, and on the restart, Steve was into the wall the exact same place, and I came through, and I guess I got in the oil or the slipperiness, and the car just tracked out. I couldn't do it, and it tagged the wall.
Good to be a part of this Aquilani Motorsports team, because they're thinking they're going to get you back out.
Yeah, they'll get me back out, and hopefully we'll finish in the top 10 now. It's really slippery out there.
Obviously, a car getting into the wall and oiling the track even worse, all that much more serious, as you can see.
Well, Terry started back in the 16th position in the number 33 Grand Sport entry. And I think that was an understatement when she said the track is slippery.
You can see the cars really slipping and sliding, and obviously when you see the cars coming around there like that, those guys behind the wheel and girls are very busy and just trying to keep it off the concrete. They want to try and survive this thing. It's, you know, when you're running this close together, you have one guy get out of shape, it can really have a concertina effect on everyone. And we see Joe VARDE now really having to work a heavy traffic there. And this is difficult. The vision for everyone, particularly from behind, in the mirrors and stuff, is almost non-existent there, and for the leaders to come through under these conditions, he really has to step very carefully.
And of course, as is so often the case in this type of racing, traffic, I feel sure, will play a major part in this race. And as you said, Joe VARDE is having to step very carefully with his traffic well into lap traffic now, so he is going to be in traffic for the next 2.5 hours as this race progresses. There's just no way he's not going to be in traffic from now on.
Andy Pilgrim called this track mentally demanding. Now, this morning in our first rain, it stopped. It was very, very humid here. I thought it's going to be a physically demanding race as well. I'm not sure how warm it is out right now, but right now it has to be both physically and mentally demanding because these guys are watching their mirrors. They can't see that well because of the spray. They're watching in front of them. They can't see the car in front because of the spray. It's really like tippy-toe around this racetrack.
Well, the balance really changes from physical to mental because the physical side of driving, obviously the G-forces and the heavy braking has gone away under these conditions. You can see Joe there almost getting pinched into the wall, but on the mental side, the concentration that you have to have driving your own car, then reading the traffic and people making mistakes and everything else, and also the strategy in the pits, that's mental as well, making the right calls as to when to come in, and there's going to be a great race. You can see Joe here really working the traffic once again.
We had a chance to visit with Eric Van Cleef earlier, who clinched the title in the sport division by virtue of that 1 point that he received for being the fast qualifier. Let's also mention that John Green was the fast qualifier in touring. That's his 4th pole of the year and his 15th of the season, or of his career, I should say. And also David Daughtary was the fast qualifier in the compact class. We do have some debris on the racetrack. The number 40 Honda earlier made contact with the wall and left some of the rear of the car along the concrete wall.
Now, some of that debris could be a bit of a problem because if you pick it up in the treaded tires, it could work its way through the tire and obviously cause a puncture, which is not something you want here. But there you get an idea of that spray. I mean, it is going to get real thick. There's the debris on the outside there. In fact, that looks like a bit more debris than there was there before.
I think that's from Terry McDonald's car when she actually tagged the wall there coming off that turn, and it's going to be interesting to see how long the IMSA officials allow this race to continue, because if one of the other cars gets out there, you're obviously going to cut down a tire and have more damage.
Well, that one big piece is from the number 40 Honda Prelude that Brown made contact with the wall early on and drove away. But you're right, the big question mark is how long can they continue, one, with the conditions from Mother Nature as well as the debris on the racetrack. But Joe Vardy continues to lead the parade here in a very wet Dallas.
Ferrari, the world's most popular high-performance car and ultimate driving experience. Now you can experience the speed, the performance, and the sheer thrill of Ferrari's road rocket, the F355, in this incredible new video. The Ultimate V8, which can be yours by calling 1-800-451-4800. The Ultimate V8 takes you behind the wheel of Ferrari's race-bred street car as champion drivers Steve and Tom Shelton guide you through an awesome ride around one of America's most challenging road courses at Road Atlanta. The 355 has created a driving experience no other car can match, one you can see, feel, and hear in the Ultimate V8. Taste the style and beauty. Feel the performance. Feel the speed of the world's most desired high-performance car. Experience the Ultimate V8. Call 1-800-451-4800 and order the Ultimate V8 for just $24.95 plus $3.50 shipping and handling. That's 1-800-451-4800 for the Ultimate V8. Order now.
57 vet, huh? Of course, you got a lens cap from a 56, but you did know that, didn't you? And you got a little bit of a gap over here, and you got a ding in your chrome. God, it hurts me to see that. So now I gotta ask myself, what's under the towel? Duct tape? Duct tape!
Speed Vision Network. Motorheads live here.
The Grand Prix of Dallas continues under the most ominous conditions as the rain continues to fall. Joe Vardy right there in the turbo Mazda continues to lead. His teammate SYLVAIN TREMBLAY qualified for his 4th pole of the year, but Varde started the race, and if they can continue on at reduced speeds and through some more yellows, that car may only make one pit stop and make the driver change. And then TREMBLAY would look for his 3rd victory of the year as they come down Hotel Street past the pit lane where Greg Creamer is standing by with a couple of racing tires.
Well, indeed, what we've got here is what these teams use for a wet tire and a dry tire. Unlike series that race on slicks that have a completely different compound with grooves cut into it, in this series, it's the same tire, it's just got a different tread depth. This would be the dry tire, down to about 2 to 3 32nds of an inch. You can see a lot of contact patch, not a lot of groove. You move over to the wet tire, it's got a lot more channeling in it, and what it does is it channels the water out. Even though it's the same compound. That's the secret to a successful rain tire, getting the water out from underneath the tire so the car doesn't float on it. It's the same tire, just different tread depth. Now, I got to point out, when number 1, Doug GOAD, came in, of course, his co-driver, Andy Pilgrim, leading in the points. Another thing you can do to get bite in the rain is get the car as soft as possible. Well, they made the ultimate commitment. They disconnected the rear bar. If it dries up, they could be in trouble. Right now, they're looking pretty strong, really.
Now, keep in mind that so often in a rain tire situation, it is a softer compound. They cannot run as long on the tire. These are the same tires.
Well, of course, they're all Toyo tires in this series, and these soft tires here are not a factor. These aren't really soft tread. They have a special compound that's good in wet weather, it's good in dry weather, it's good in hot, it's good in cold conditions. So we've got somebody else in the wall whose tread did not grip too well.
Hard to see what number that was 73 or 78?
15, I think.
15.
Close.
Well, that's close.
Mike Fitzgerald and Charles Menendez.
Charles Menendez, who used to drive at IMSA a long time ago.
We see the Hacker Express going around, and interesting to know that that car is already a lap down, so that shows the pace of Joe VARDE here today. He's really eating through this field, and under these conditions, if he can get a lap up on most of the competitors, that would be a huge advantage early in the go.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. And there's no doubt about it that Joe VARDE is doing a tremendous job in very difficult conditions, weaving his way through the traffic. And a very, very experienced driver is our Giuseppe.
Only one more race for this division before the season concludes, and that will be down at Daytona in October. But John HAYNER right now leading the point standings with 130 in Grand Sport. Andy Pilgrim is second, some 11 points back. And Joe VARDE is third with 114. So a good finish for VARDE today. And if HAYNER and Pilgrim had some trouble, then it would put VARDE in a good position to maybe take that title at Daytona.
Here we see the number 1 car. He made that pit stop and is already back up to the 3rd position. So as Greg mentioned, they came in, they disconnected that rear roll bar, and he's obviously making good steady progress because he's back up to the 3rd position, chased hard by the number 3 car of Cochran.
Jason Priestley has a big motor home here this weekend. He's kind of hiding after that. And right now he's probably thinking, you know, it could be a lot more enjoyable in that motor home than what it is out here fighting Mother Nature.
That's right. It's probably pretty miserable in that car. The biggest problem is the vision, as David mentioned. Not only just seeing, you know, the spray and everything, but typically you get a lot of condensation on the inside, and that's the driver's nightmare when you can't see where you're going between these walls around this Dallas track.
Some of these cars are rear drive, some are front drive. Both you guys, veteran race drivers, an observation on your preference.
Well, I must say that I prefer the rear-wheel drive in conditions like this. Front drive cars, of course, make for a very compact engine transmission, good transaxle, great for production, and good in snow. But when it comes to conditions like this, I prefer the rear-wheel drive. Now, that just might be something because I drove race cars with rear-wheel drive for 30-odd years, and I find it difficult to come to grips with the front-wheel drive cars. But, of course, the modern front-drive cars, when they modify them for racing, they're pretty neutral, too.
You started driving race cars when the wheels had wooden spokes, didn't you?
Exactly. A long time ago.
Look at this traffic as they come down the backside of the circuit. Unbelievable. You see the number 1 car and the number 3 there trying to fight the way, and GOAD goes to the outside.
Ooh, almost contact right there in that right-hander as the rain continues to fall. As we take a look now at the top runners here at the Grand Prix of Dallas, and once again, VARDE continues to lead. Now just past 45 minutes into a 3-hour endurance race. You can see some body parts down there on that race course. And there's a look at Jason Priestley, who has made a pit stop after an altercation on the racetrack, as we take a look now at what happened a couple of laps ago. Chris Scavney's gets to the inside of Priestley's number 46. There's contact right there, turns Jason to the wall. And he is able to continue on as he's pushed all the way around. He made the pit stop, came in to check the damage, and I'm wondering why they didn't refuel the car while he was in.
Well, we asked that question of the crew chief, and they said basically they didn't want to go down a lap by topping the car off. Remember, they're getting around here fairly quick, something just over a minute 15, minute 20 seconds or so. They didn't want to go down a lap, and they think they can do it. Well, they're sure actually now they can do it on one stop. So they said, we're not going to fuel, we're going to do that while we do the driver's change. It was just a quick check and let them go, stay on the lap, try and make up some ground.
And you can see the very, very slight damage. So I question, would that be driver inexperience as to why Jason Priestley came in?
Well, the spin was quite considerable, and probably from Jason's perspective, he felt the car hit the wall and crunched the wall, and he probably thought he had more damage than he did. But as we're looking at it right there on the left front corner, really didn't get into the tire or suspension, so he would have probably been better to stay out for that, feel the car out, see if there was any problems, and then make the pit stop rather than bringing it straight in.
Well, it is remarkably unscathed, because it was a pretty substantial belt he gave the wall. He had the other car jammed into his door for quite a long time there. So, I mean, yeah, a bit of an experience maybe, but on the other hand, I think I might have come in then too, because you just don't know what damage has been done. If it's pushed the bodywork onto the tyre, the next thing you know, the tyre's cut, two-thirds of the way around the racetrack, and you've got to stagger back.
That's right. If he'd have cut the tyre down, we'd have said that was an experience for not breaking it in.
This guy just can't win, can he?
Right. It's the trouble being a rookie.
But I tell you what, still, he has been impressive all in all. He's learned well. He's had a good teacher in Scott Maxwell, who you got a glimpse of there in the pit lane, waiting to come in on the driver change, and he'll drive the last leg. And you made an observation earlier. We talked about making pit stops, and usually this would be a two-stop race. But as we talked to Tremblay before the race, he said with weather conditions, a lot of yellows, the lead car driven by VARDE now should make it on one stop. And that could indicate that all these cars could make it on one stop. Well, we watch once again Jason Priestley, who continues his learning curve. And earlier this weekend, I know that we had a chance to send Greg Creamer over to the pit area, visit with Jason Priestley about his learning curve this season as a rookie here in the IMSA Endurance Championship Series.
Back-to-back races really compress the schedule, and you're seeing a little bit of a Mosport memory being cleaned up by Jason Priestley's crew. And I'm standing by with Jason Priestley, who moved into road racing from rally racing last year. And Jason, you've established yourself in this division. Now Scott Maxwell, a very talented driver, has joined the team since Sears Point. You got to feel good about your chances for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Scotty came on board for starting at Sears Point, and we were real competitive there. We were real competitive last week at Mosport. Ended up finishing 5th, but I think we had the fastest car out there, and a little bit of bad luck hurt us late in the race, but we should be real competitive here today.
Well, they were certainly competitive in Mosport. Right up front, stayed there most of the way.
You know, so often when somebody comes into a series from a background like Jason Priestley, we look at him as a racing actor. But I think at some point in time with the progress he's made, we can kind of drop the actor and say he's here to race. He doesn't want to sign autographs as a Hollywood star. He wants to sign autographs as a race driver.
That's right, and he's really doing a great job. And one point on that Mosport race, they were actually leading the race, came in for a pit stop. We see the number 37 there. I think that may be the McNeely machine has been turned around. Actually, that's Joe Aquilani and Jim McCallion in that car today. But at Mosport, they were leading the race. They came in and they left the fill cap off during the pit stop, and they were leading the race. Had to come back in, put that on, and then he had a speed limit infraction down the pit lane, which was 25 miles an hour there because of the very tight confines of the Mosport pit lane. So they really lost out on a great result potentially there at Mosport last weekend.
Yeah, that's just one of those things, not putting the fuel cap on. You obviously can't blame Jason Priestley for that. Going to the pit lane a bit quick. It was a very, very low speed limit. Very hard to adjust to such a low speed limit, but extremely narrow pit lane up there in Mosport.
The speed limit here this weekend is 45 miles an hour. That really shouldn't be a problem because when they make pit stops a bit later in this event, they're going so slow in the racetrack anyway, that shouldn't be a problem getting into 45.
Well, and you see Cochran really got wide there coming through the fast right-hander there, and the number 2 car of Conway has got underneath him as they break down for that tight right-hander.
Frank Conway on the inside, and then red number 2. Cochran in the burgundy number 3 as they come down the Hotel Street.
Obviously, meeting the fill window is going to be the strategy we're talking about right now. But before the race, under dry conditions, everyone was talking about brakes, long, fast straightaways, heavy braking zones. Everyone was thinking about braking. And I spoke to Scott Maxwell before the race, and he said that if they had a yellow, their concern was boiling the brakes on a pit stop. So he said they were potentially thinking about running around behind the pace car for 2 or 3 laps if they got a caution period before bringing it in. Ideally, you'd want to bring it in as soon as you can to regain that track position, but they were willing to sacrifice that so that they did not boil the brakes on the vehicle.
Well, what had turned out to be intermittent showers earlier today, now a steady downpour here in Dallas as the race continues, and once again Joe VARDE continues to lead the way. Gary Lee along with David Hobbs, Greg Creamer, and Calvin Fish back at the streets of Dallas in the Grand Prix of Dallas as we take a look now at the top 20. And right now we can tell you that Joe VARDE continues a 27-second lead. So he has been in command from the opening green, and this race has been contested under very wet conditions. Another car off course. Number 7 Mazda in trouble down there, and
that's
that is
Brad Krieger.
Brad Krieger.
He was running in 5th position, so obviously that's quite an important factor there. He's obviously stalled the car, unable to get it moving right now. We see a corner worker helping him out there.
Now on replay, this is what happened. Tries the high side, and a little contact right there. A little more than a little contact.
Yeah, looked like the 34 car was having some problems, and the 7 went around the outside. 34 obviously didn't know he was there and basically shoved him out wide and spun him around. But he momentarily stalled the car, but he's underway again, and probably kept it in the top 10 with the spacing out of the cars right now.
That was Steve Pfeffer in the 34 car that pushed him around there. You can see that rear wheel drive there, the fishtailing as he comes off the turn 6 there and starts off down this pretty long straightaway.
You can see a little bit of damage to the left side of the car there, and now we're watching the battle for 3rd
There
and
is
4th, I believe.
Doug Goad in the number 1 car. That's the car that qualified outside the front row. And the team driver, Andy Pilgrim, right now 2nd in the point standings, and he is waiting for that pit stop to take over the driving chores.
I think Andy's just a little bit anxious, too. It's getting close to that window. Andy, first of all, you've got, I think at Mosport, your 38th consecutive finish in 4 years. Doug Goad, it's his 100th start in IMSA showroom stock competition. In these kind of conditions, having that kind of experience in the car before you get in has to feel good.
Yeah, it does. Dougie's doing a great job so far. He's keeping the car in one piece. He's been real conservative in traffic. We've got to do that. We have to be conservative. We got to finish. And in these conditions, a finish is a victory for anybody.
Points really key for you, obviously. Strategy has to play a role here, too. We're just past the hour mark. What are you guys thinking?
Well, we're getting close to what we call our fuel window. When Dougie comes in, I'm getting in the car and going. But you've just got to take every corner as it comes in these kind of conditions. You've just got to be really, really careful.
And again, we can't stress enough, points are such a concern. And David and Calvin, when you're driving in the wet, sometimes don't you run a higher gear to get eliminate wheel spin? That can help with your fuel economy, can it?
Well, of course, when you're driving a specialized race car, you can do that sort of thing. But obviously, it didn't start raining till lunchtime, and it's a bit late for these guys to go changing the final drive. They will be using a lot less power and a lot less horsepower than they would if it was dry, so their fuel consumption should not be a problem this afternoon. Their biggest problem now is that number 2 car, Craig Conway, who's come up from 10th on the grid, so he's now challenging that number 1 car that's being co-driven by Andy Pilgrim. So the Craig Conway car coming right up there.
To show you how competitive this series is, last season Andy Pilgrim won the title and won 6 races. He has yet to find victory lane this season.
It really is very competitive. There's so many cars that can win on any given weekend, and you have someone of Andy's caliber and the team that's behind him to be this far in the season with only 2 races left here and in Daytona, and they still haven't won a race this year. It's incredible.
The battle for 3rd and 4th. There's Craig Conway in the red number.
Craig Conway seemed to make up some ground there, didn't he, in the traffic. Now they've broken free of traffic. Doug Goad is pulling away again, but I tell you what, I think this rain's getting worse. Don't you think, Calvin? It's looking pretty hairy now. We're getting a lot of ponding there, and so that's going to bring out some aquaplaning. Luckily, they're not going really super fast there. Whoa! You see Conway there getting really fishtailing on the brake. So conditions starting to deteriorate rapidly for these guys. Another thing that's going to happen is a 3-hour race. It never was scheduled to finish till 6:30. By which time here in Dallas at this time of the year, it's getting pretty gloomy anyway. Obviously, with this intense cloud cover, by the time 6:30 comes down, it's going to be very gloomy out there.
I have to ask, we're seeing some drivers, as we have right here, the number 1 car with the lights on. Why aren't we seeing all the lights on?
I'm not sure, actually. If I was out there, I must say I'd have my lights on if I was in one of the quick cars, like the number 1
warn
car.
the guy in front.
Exactly. To warn people that you're coming up to lap that you were coming up on.
He got very wide there coming through, I believe, turn 3, and almost got it in the tires there, but he's obviously pushing hard. He's under a lot of pressure from behind, and they can't allow those leaders to get too far ahead. Do you know what I mean? Whilst it keeps going green like this, normally you just want to keep the leaders in sight. You're planning on a few cautions, but right now we're getting a lot of green flag racing, and the leaders are gradually stretching it out.
Well, you're watching that battle for 3rd right now. Doug Goad in the number 1. Firebird Formula running in 3rd position. And he has pressure from behind in the number 2 car with Craig Conway. So that's the best battle right now on the racetrack as they battle for 3rd position, but VARDE continues to lead.
It may surprise you that an engine set a world record for power and durability by traveling over 15,000 consecutive miles at an average speed of 158 miles per hour, or that a motorsports version won the grueling 24 hours at Daytona and the 12 hours at Sebring. But what's truly surprising is where they both came from, the 32-valve dual overhead cam Aurora V8. Aurora by Oldsmobile.
Speed Gear presents its latest catalog of officially licensed racing merchandise. Choose from the top names in Formula One and IndyCar, Benetton, Williams-Renault, Newman-Haas, and Rahal. Drivers including Senna, Schumacher, and Hill, plus Andretti, Tracy, and Gordon. Speed Gear has everything from t-shirts, hats, and jackets to scale models, videos, and hundreds of accessories. Call 1-800-777-1847 for your free catalog from Speed Gear.
The fastest car in the touring class now in pit lane. It's not a routine stock. Mark Hine had been the starting driver. John Green qualified that car fast in that class. But let's look at what happened to the black number 38.
He looked like he just aquaplaned there under braking. He was coming down on the right side trying to overtake some traffic, and he really made heavy contact with the wall there on the right side, and that's the side we saw them working on in the pit lane.
Well, Greg Creamer is down there for an update on the problem with car 38.
Thanks very much, Gary. I'm standing by with number 38's driver at the time, Mark Hine. And Mark, what happened out in 1?
I was coming up on 41 to take over 2nd place, and I think I took too big a bite. I was catching him 4 seconds a lap. I should have hung back, but I got bumped by him as I was going by, and as soon as he bumped me, I started to hydroplane, and I just took a shot to the wall. It bent the rear toe link. If it wasn't for that, I think we'd have been all right. I could have kept going, but that's just life, you know. Those things happen. It was my fault. I shouldn't have tried to take that big a bite. Should have taken 2nd, been happy with it.
All right, however, the crew not giving up. They've already got another wheel back on. John Green on board. Going to send him back out and see what they can salvage.
You know, you have to tip your hat to the crew. The driver climbs out. He stayed fairly dry in the cockpit. He can walk over. Another problem on the racetrack. He can walk over to a shelter someplace. And the poor crew guys are out there with no shelter, no protection, climbing under that race car. Is a miserable day. It's bad enough to be in the cockpit. It's miserable for those guys working on the car.
Oh, it really is.
You got to take your hat off to Mark Hine, too, who admittedly made a mistake. So many drivers would have obviously blamed the other car there.
Well, here's the best battle right now on the racetrack, and that is for, what, 3rd position? Or that is, no, it's for 2nd position.
And that's Stu Hayner in the 32 car, and Doug Goad really putting the pressure on now. He's really made up a lot of ground because Stu had quite a big lead there between 2nd and 3rd spot, and Goad is really on the move now, and they're going to try and bear in mind that the guys who are going to take over these cars are the guys who are battling for the championship. Heinrich will get in that 32 car, and Pilgrim will get in the 1, so this is very important in the championship battle right now.
Coming up to some lap traffic in a very poor part of the racetrack here to get around it, where the road moves right, left, a guy there moving out to let the faster traffic through. That's pretty good of him too in these terrible conditions. And of course we don't see Craig Conway anymore, where he was in that 2 car right behind him a few moments ago.
So would strategy dictate, since these guys, or their teammates we should say, are in the points battle, would they likely pit at the same time and let the pit crews go at each other?
Well, it's really going to be interesting. I mean, there's so many things going on right now. I mean, how much fuel they're burning up with the wet conditions, if they're going to get a lot of yellow. I mean, I'm sure the crew chiefs are really working overload right now on when to bring these cars in, but we're getting a lot of green flag racing, and these cars are going to have to pit. I mean, there's a point where you have to bring it in and not run out of fuel, so we should see that within the next 20-30 minutes of these cars having to pit, even if there is a yellow condition, because they need to get some fuel in. They can't afford to run out around here and lose a lot of track position for one of these championship contenders, so they have to be a little conservative.
Well, of course, these two obviously aren't going to run each other off the road. There's no doubt about it, as they are, you know, team cars. On the other hand, if the number 1 car there, being driven by Doug Goad, thinks he can get around, he will do.
Right.
But he's going to be careful about how he does it.
He's not going to force the issue.
I don't think so.
He gets really wide going through there.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it's like he's got a lot of understeer. We mentioned the fact that we disconnected the roll bar on that car, and that will, you know, obviously induce a lot of understeer in the vehicle. It seems in the low speed stuff that he's actually got an understeer where the car's pushing straight ahead, but with the rear roll bar disconnected, it will put the power down better as he comes off the turn. So it's really a compromise on the settings there.
Well, it's just one of those things when you come in and disconnect the rear bar or the front bar, whichever you decide to disconnect. Obviously, it is a big gamble. You just don't know what's going to happen. There's a 94 car that we saw spin earlier on.
75, that's the compact car of Chris Gaffney. He's the champion of the compact division last year. In fact, that car started 38th, and they're up to 8th overall.
What that really indicates is that some of these compact cars are a lot easier to drive under these conditions because they put the power to the ground very effectively. And down in the pits, Greg Kramer has a story.
Greg?
Hi. Yeah, here we go. I'm standing by with Dave Daughtery, and Dave, you put that car on the pole, and I think it's like your 5th pole of the season. It's been a great year for you that way. Talk about a great race. Starting, as they just said in the booth, back in something like 30th, you're running well into the top 10. What a great drive.
Yeah, well, not exactly the car I qualified. Actually, this is the car Christian Scavness qualified, and he has given it a spirited drive. The little Nissan 200 is coming through the pack, and it's running with all the big cars. It's pretty exciting.
Why is that exactly, that a car that normally would be that much further back in the rain on a track like this could be so competitive?
Front-wheel drive. I'll tell you, that little front-wheel drive is hooked up today in the rain. The ABS, the car is so good. You know, wet traction, snow, it's good.
Obviously, it's good, doing very well. Of course, you're going to be getting in a different car. Where's that placed right now?
Yeah, I'm not sure which car I'm going to get in right now, but I'll probably get in the 76 car, and we'll try to move it back up from about 6, try to get her in the top 3.
All right, David Daughtery looking for some points.
I was going to have him say hello to David because we used to race go-karts together about 20-some years ago.
My
He
goodness
was a
me,
pretty
how can you
fair
be that old?
go-kart driver.
His career went
well, the
further than
rain
yours,
continues to fall, and the race continues through the city streets here in Dallas. Speed Vision back at the Sprint Grand Prix of Dallas, 3-hour IMSA Endurance Championship. We have now reached the halfway point as you watch the rear of the white number 46 of Jason Priestley, and he got tagged a couple laps back. He's getting a real education here in the rain. Now this is HAYNER behind him in car 32.
Well, he tagged him in the braking zone there. Obviously, Jason was braking a little earlier than HAYNER, or HAYNER misjudged his braking there and just pushed him out a little wide, and sort of NASCAR style there, moves underneath him.
But Jason Priestley actually is doing a tremendous job because this is a very difficult racetrack. As you can see, a lot of heavy water lying there, so aquaplaning is a big problem this afternoon. Obviously, the grip factor's way down, and he's hanging right in there. I mean, they started off in 3rd position. He's back to 11th, but I still think he's, you know, for a relatively inexperienced race driver, he's hanging in very well on one extremely difficult condition.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, and he has such a great attitude out of the car as well. He's really enjoying his racing, realizes that he's on a big learning curve, and always praises his teammate Scott Maxwell, who's typically been qualifying the car and putting him towards the front of the grid.
Right now, Joe VARDE continues to lead. He has lengthened the lead to 41 seconds, but there is heavy traffic throughout this racing facility, which is 1.3 miles in length, encompassing 9 turns. The roads and streets around the Reunion Arena here in Dallas. We can also tell you that Greg Lavelle is now leading the sports class at number 30. We also have Gary Blackman in 31 leading touring. Scavney's in the number 75 car is now up to the lead in the compact division.
Watching VARDE work through traffic once again there, and okay, and there he's behind the Mustang there trying to work his way, and look at that Mustang get sideways as he went through that turn, and that's the problem for the leaders. I mean, not only are they trying to put their own power to the ground and keep the car under control, some of these other cars are not handling as well, and these cars can really turn you in the fence very quickly.
By the way, gentlemen, speaking of cars that are handling well, you were just talking about the Speed Source Mazda with Joe VARDE behind the wheel, number 70. That's got a margin of some 45 seconds at this point, working beautifully. Stop by and talk to SYLVAIN TREMBLAY very quickly. He's concentrating, getting ready to get in the car, and it could come at any time. They're in the window. And I asked him, what is the absolute outside here if we do not get a yellow? How long can you go? And he said about an hour 40, hour 45 minutes is our best guess. That's pretty much what we're hearing from most of the Grand Sports teams right now. So if we get a yellow within the next 10-15 minutes, all the other cars, the other 3 divisions, are easily in that window. This pit lane is going to get incredibly busy, and that's when Tremblay will get in for VARDE and try and keep that car out front.
I must say it's tremendous. These drivers all deserve an accolade this afternoon. I mean, it's very, very difficult conditions. 50-odd cars packed into 1.3 mile. And we've had virtually no yellow flag racing. Before it started, I was convinced we were going to have about 50% of this race was going to be under caution.
There we see Stu Hayner and Doug Goad, the 32 and number 1 car, again battling for position. And these guys have actually been teammates before, so we mentioned earlier about whether they'd put each other off. They know their own game. They've worked very closely together. They've won races together, and I'm sure they know their own driving styles very closely.
How many times have we talked about the pit crew winning a race? And here's an example right here. If we don't get a yellow, we have green flag pit stops, it's going to be the crew that wins this race.
Well, the fill window really could play a part right now, because if we get to the point where, and then now we see the number 70 coming in under green flag, and this is what I was then going to point out, if we have the other cars pitting under a caution, for example, if VARDE pits now under green, changes to Tremblay, and then the others get a yellow flag, this could turn things around.
Well, the last clocking, we had him at 41 seconds in the lead, and Greg Creamer is standing by to call this driver change.
And you can see VARDE just heaves his seat pad. He's a little bit shorter than Tremblay, so they have to put a little seat pad in. He just heaves it over the wall, gets Tremblay in the car as quick as possible, and they're buckling up. Meanwhile, left rear corner going after the fuel and loading this thing up. Again, the most thirsty car, but they're getting so much help from the yellows and, more importantly, the rain. Also, you can see putting a little bit of oil in the engine. That's something they always do with this car. They tend to burn it just a little bit rich anyway, just to make sure they don't have problems. They've got the oil in. Driver change is complete, and we're just waiting for the fuel to come down. Let's see, VARDE is, see if we can get Joe. Joe, let me grab you here for just a second. Obviously, he's interested in how the pit stop goes. Joe, what a remarkable run. You had a margin of over some 40 seconds built up by the time you made this stop.
Yeah, the car's running great. It's just handling real good in the rain, and everything's fine. I don't know, it's just a lot of traffic out there, and we just got to be careful.
Obviously, that's the key. Get to the finish, always.
Well, VARDE is so versatile. Had a great ride last week at Mosport Park in a Viper, finished second in the GTS 1 class.
He's really an expert in these type of vehicles, and moving up a category there last week, ran the GTS 1 division, and they really pushed the old Auroras very hard there at Mosport, where he was driving with Victor Sifton.
So the pit crew, the one and only pit stop that we anticipate from this crew today. So we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll figure out exactly where he is now in the race. Past the halfway point now in the Grand Prix of Dallas with the IMSA Endurance Championship. We had a change of leader. First, the pit stop by Joe VARDE, and then on the racetrack, Doug Goad got around Stu Hayner. And so Goad now leads in the number 1 car. There's a look at Hayner in number 32 tucked in behind him. First and second. Third now is Bernie Cochran in another Pontiac. And Tremblay, after taking over the driving of car number 70, is back in 4th position. And Andy Pilgrim is suiting up because they have a pit stop. There's Andy Pilgrim. And so he'll be taking over the number 1 car that started outside the front row. The car that is now leading will be turned over to Andy Pilgrim. The helmet is on, so obviously we can anticipate a pit stop very, very soon.
Of course, what these guys are waiting for now is a caution flag, which would obviously help their cause immensely over the car of Tremblay and Joe VARDE. They had a 41-second lead when they came in, and obviously these guys are going to have somewhat similar length pit stops, which will obviously, would think, put the Mazda back in the lead. So these guys are hoping they can get a caution, which would make a huge difference to the outcome of this race. And just look at that traffic, just never gives up, does it? Relentless traffic all afternoon. Look at that water collecting down in the turn 8 area there as they go along the corner between 8 and 9. Very slippery on braking in there. That's Reunion East Street. And they go around 9 and, of course, set up Hotel Street.
HAYNER got very wide there coming off that last turn, and he lost a lot of time there behind that Mustang down the back straightaway. Going through that sweeper, a lot of guys take different speeds through there depending on how the car is handling, and Stu obviously got balked and lost 2 to 3 seconds there on GOAD. So this is critical right now. These guys, obviously the teams are working hard in pit lane, trying to sort out when they should pit and what the fill window is to the end here in case it goes green all the way. And but we should be seeing these guys pitting at any time. And again, that number 1 car, David, as you see him there, he really gets wide coming out of that turn with a lot of push in the car.
Incredibly wide, doesn't he, compared to the 32 car? You asked earlier, Gary, about the lights. It looks to me like the 32 car is in fact trying to have some lights. He's got one light up on the Pontiac there, the other one's down. Maybe they've got a problem with their lights, which could become a problem as this race gets down towards the end. The 1 car now with a pretty healthy lead as they go through the 7th sweeper here.
That one corner there, David, looks really treacherous, doesn't it? There, they really seem to tippy-toe through there.
Look at the traffic out in front of your leaders. There's look at the 32 car.
And 65, the compact car there of John Norris has been running up in the top 10. Another one of the compact cars that's really been running strong today. And you know, those guys really are able to put the pad to the ground, and he's hanging on that Grand Sports car. And look, he actually closes up in some of the turns, just a lot easier to handle under these very bad conditions.
Scavnys continues to lead in the compact class in car number 75. We had documented earlier what a great ride he is having, because he started way back in the 37th, make that the 38th position. 30 car is now the leader in the sport class, and there is a look at the number 30 car. That is Greg LaBelle. He has 4 classes in 1 race. We started 52 cars here this afternoon, as David said, very tight racing conditions on a 1.3-mile circuit.
Greg LaBelle has a lot of experience on street racing with the Sports 2000 class in the Oldsmobile Pro Series. I've watched him and commentated on racing that he's been involved in, and a very competitive driver, always runs towards the front, and here he's leading the sports division right now.
They in fact qualified 2nd in that division behind your man Eric Van Cleef. And so now they've caught up and passed them, obviously, and running very well here in the rain. Oh, look at that rain. The amount of rain in front of those tires goes through this water, which is now lying pretty deep in a lot of places on this race.
I'll tell you what, though, Dave, from a driver's perspective, I mean, typically the guys in the smaller classes are just being lapped consistently through these events, and it's nice to have a day when you're actually, you know, in
contention,
yeah, you know, running up in the top 10. They're probably having a lot of fun out there today.
As those faster cars lap them, in fact, in some cases, like you said earlier, they'd be quicker through the tighter parts of the track, so they'd be cursing the big boys for a change.
Well, there's your leader of the touring class, number 31, Gary Blackman, on board that car.
And he's probably going to turn it over to Terry Airwood, and it's worth bearing in mind here that Terry Airwood and John Green are close in points for the championship in touring, so with Green's problems, that will be effective.
So we'll come back with more from Dallas after this commercial break. We are now nearing the pit stops for the first 2 cars. We have already seen Joe VARDE, who had been leading this race by 41 seconds, stop. His team driver, Tremblay, took over. He is back and forth as you watch 1st and 2nd on the racetrack right together. Doug Goad and Stu HAYNER, nose to tail, down along the freeway. This is the frontage road. Interstate 35 East off to the driver's left side right now.
Look at that compact class car. The number 65 is still hanging on there. He's having a lot of fun right in there with the big boys today.
He's really hanging in there. He's been with them for lap after lap now, so hanging on incredibly well there.
Doug Goad continues to lead as we take a look at the Jason Priestley car, and Scott Maxwell taking over that car. So Priestley started the car that had been qualified by Maxwell. So Priestley had a pretty good learning experience here this afternoon.
Looks like they had a penalty there on the pit stop. You see an IMSA official there. Oh, no, actually, there's a team member there holding them. They're just refueling there. It's difficult to see the refueler there. It looked like the car was clean to go, and they're out of there. And Scott Maxwell should be a little bit quicker than Jason. Jason's done a tremendous job, but meanwhile, the number 1 car is
Doug Goad from Farmington Hills, Michigan. The 38-year-old is in the pits for the 1 stop they planned today and a driver change. Greg, you down there?
You bet, and Pilgrim wasted no time getting over the wall already. GOAD climbing out. They are going to swap out. I don't know if they're going to do tires or not, but as you people had talked about earlier, they're jacking at least that left side of the car up to get as much fuel in as possible to make sure they can make this one now with this one stop. Pilgrim already in. Look at how quick that driver change was. He's finishing up on the belts. They've already got the window net in place. The door is shut, and they are ready to go. It's just a matter of fuel. Fuel's in. Shutting it, it's down, got the jack moved, and he's away. Very quick stop, much faster than the number 70 Mazda. The crew down here celebrating. They know they pulled off a beauty.
Well, I said earlier a pit crew could win this race for somebody, a good fast stop.
I'm not quite sure why that Mazda took so long, because the driver change was accomplished way before the thing was full of fuel, and they must have taken on about the same amount of fuel. So just was a huge difference there, so that's going to play a big part in this race now.
The other thing is, David, I would think that the Mazda went to a full load of fuel to ensure they go to the distance. With that number 1 car, it might have been what we call a time stop, where the crew chief actually times and, you know, they can calculate how much fuel is going in. Instead of maybe a minute 30, they did it in a minute and felt that's enough to get them all the way. And now we see HAYNER in the pit lane, and he's going to do his driver change.
All right, your leader now in. HAYNER had been running second before the number 1 car of Doug Gold came in.
This is the other championship contender here, John Heinrichs. He'll be taking over from Stu HAYNER in the number 32 machine, and it's going to be interesting to see when they get back on track how the pit stops played out and whether there's an advantage here. It looks like this team are changing the left side tires at least. It'll be interesting to see. I would have to assume they're going to the full wet weather tire once again. Whoa! And the number 11 there at considerable speed backwards up in turn 1.
Big time. Just completely locked up there coming into turn 1 and slid off the road at tremendous speed.
That was incredible.
Quick in a Grand Sports class.
And he's driving it back out. Look at this. Gilles Villeneuve start. He's out of the tires, and he's going to bring it back to pit lane.
See, I think we have this on tape to show you exactly what happened. Now watch again. Look at the speed that he carries.
Well, he's already turned around. There's no cars really close to him, so it looks like he maybe just got on the brakes a little too late. Maybe hit a puddle of water and it turned him around, and that's what happened. It looks like it's all under control until it goes wrong, and then it suddenly looks very dramatic.
John Quick in number 11 Pontiac.
Looks like he clipped the wall, which opened up the rear deck, so that acted as a big air brake as he slid down the road backwards, but it's done a lot of damage to the car. Luckily, the tire barrier did exactly what it was supposed to do, slowed him down, way down as he buried himself in the tires on the escape road, but he's obviously going to go round.
All 4 tires have air.
But all 4 tires have air, and they're all pointing roughly in the right direction, so he's going to come back, have some of that bodywork pulled off, and carry on.
Let's go to the pit lane, Greg.
I'm standing by with Doug Goad, who just, of course, got out of the number 1 car, leading at the time. Doug, first of all, the obvious question is, what are the conditions like on this track right now?
It's pretty treacherous out there right now. There's a lot of standing water now, and the problem we're having is the cold water hitting the windshield. It made it so foggy to the point where I couldn't see my apexes anymore. And I decided the best thing to do was bring the car in, let the guys put some Rain-X on it, let Danny get in and keep going. I hate giving up a car when it's up in the lead like that. We still had fuel, but it was the best thing for the team.
Well, you always got to think ahead, obviously. It looked like the crew did that a little earlier. They brought you in on one of the very early yellows and disconnected the rear sway bar. Did that help?
Oh, yeah, it made a big difference. The car was a lot quicker than I was driving it. The only thing that was slowing the car down was my visibility. I could not see well enough to run the car to its potential, so it's really too bad. The Mazda with its independent rear suspension really hooks up, and number 1 Pontiac was running pretty good, but we just couldn't quite catch him.
And again, though, the crew did the job. A rocket quick stop. He's smiling.
Well, now with just over an hour to go, that is your new leader, Bernie Cochran in number 3, but he has yet to stop. We'll come back and document his stop as we come back to Dallas. Back at the Grand Prix of Dallas around the Reunion Arena, where we've had a very lengthy yellow. The yellow began because of an altercation on the racetrack involving the Meyer Prelude from the touring class, and he ended up against the outside wall. Now this goes back a number of minutes ago, and you'll see the initial cause of the yellow.
Wow, he just done an aquaplane straight off there, Gary, as he came into that turn in deep water, just hit the left side tire, and there we see...
under the yellow. Now, once again, this was a number of laps ago. We see the second pit stop for the Mazda. And there is 3. Now the leader at the time, and Cochran came in and turned the car over to David Murray. This is actually the car that won the championship last year for Andy Pilgrim. Now we've had a lengthy yellow, and the reason for the yellow is the weather. We've had some very heavy rain. We've had some ponding on the racetrack, and that is causing some concern for the guys, as you see, aquaplaning across the track.
Exactly. We saw that car go straight into the wall there as he hit the heavy water, and the other cars did a good job of avoiding him. But under those conditions, it really is unsafe, because with this amount of traffic, everyone's having to run the different line, and if you get pushed out to the outside, you're basically straight into the concrete. So IMSA made a decision to run a few laps under a caution period, let the weather calm down a little bit, and now we're back to, well, hopefully going back to green here shortly.
Andy Pilgrim is your leader, car number 1. This could be his first victory of the year. Your defending champion in the Grand Sport division, but he is winless in 1996. He now leads. David Murray is second. John Heinrichsey is third. And at one point under the yellow, fourth was the Norris Mitchell, number 65.
And again, we're under green here, again starting off at that turn 6 down into the turn 7 and 8 area. So the race is on again, and it's very, very wet out there, but the rain has eased up a bit, so the water will gradually drain away before it needs to. Just look at those puddles down there between 8 and 9.
Now just over 30 minutes remaining in this event. There was a question as to whether IMSA might stop it because of the ponding out there. As you can see, very heavy in some of the turns.
Pilgrim seems to be pulling away a little bit there, and we see the number 3 car of Murray under heavy pressure now from Heinrichsey just to the back of the shots. We look at him coming up towards turn 1.
For you fans of VARDE and Tremblay, that Mazda you saw make the second pit stop to top off the fuel. They're back now in 7th position.
We have a lap car there, the number 37 in the frame, but the real battle here is between number 3 and the number 32, and Heinrichsey really wants to get out in front of this car and chase after Andy Pilgrim, because those are the 2 guys that are in the points chase.
Once again, Pilgrim having some consistent finishes this year, but he has yet to pick up that first victory.
Ooh, BMW there getting his tail wagging there as it goes through that turn 3 and 4 complex. He's had contact with the wall. This is an incredibly tight battle now for the lead in this 3-hour endurance race, and what an endurance has been for them. Just rained from the drop of the green flag, and got worse and worse and worse as the race has progressed. Joe VARDE and SYLVAIN Tremblay, who were leading by 41 seconds when they came in, and now they have dropped back to 7th spot, very nearly a lap down, and a very odd pit stop combination, a tremendously long stop, and then they decided to come in and top it up with fuel just at the crucial time when the yellow flag came out and nearly dropped the lap down.
It was really strange, David, because they went about an hour and 40 before they had to pit the first time. Admittedly, there was some yellow caution laps after that, but with an hour and 20 to go, you thought they would have been good, and they lost a lot of track position by making that second stop for Splash and Go.
But VARDE had said to Greg Creamer, almost contact, or was there contact right there in the braking zone?
Heinrichsey really got into the back of Murray there. Murray protected the inside line, and Heinrichsey already had ahead of Steve, and he basically tapped him in the rear, but both guys kept it going there and didn't lose too much ground.
What I started to say was that Joe VARDE had said the reason they came in because much of that first half of the race was under yellow, and if the second half of the race went the distance without a length of yellow, they could not go without a splash and go, and so they made the stop. They made the stop at the head of a very lengthy yellow. Had they stayed out, they'd been all right.
It still seems pretty odd to me because there wasn't all that much yellow in that first period. And of course, all of these cars are using a lot less fuel than they would normally do. Wow, just look at them all crap through that turn 7 there. The fastest corner here. And the BMW, now where is that BMW lying at the moment? Because he's obviously...
he's playing a bit of a spoiler role there. You see him get through Heinrichsey there, and that car is driven by Rick Fairbanks and Chuck Cottrell. And he's obviously got in between the main players in this race.
That's Nick Ham driving at the moment. He's English and he's a former champion, so he's catching up. Look at the way he's making that car slide around.
It looked like they're out there on an ice skating rink right now. Very slick. Still a lot of ponding as the race continues. Now just less than 30 minutes to go in the Grand Prix of Dallas.
Trapped by fire, held at gunpoint, overcome by nature, and all of it caught on camera. The ultimate in reality video. Now, for the first time, comes a heart-stopping experience, raw and real. Take a front-seat ride on daring real-life rescues, natural disasters, and shocking tragic accidents. Watch in awe as gripping action and events unfold, all captured on tape. Witness a living nightmare where life hangs by a wire. Caught on camera, the most incredible action-packed video you'll ever see. Freak accidents, police standoffs, hostage crises, explosive action. These graphic images will stay etched in your mind forever, and it's all caught on camera. Don't miss a single minute of this no-holds-barred video. Call now and order the amazing video collection, Caught on Camera, for just $19.95 plus shipping and handling. This offer is not available in stores, so you must call now.
Gary Lee along with David Hobbs, Calvin Fish, and Greg Creamer in Dallas, the final 30 minutes of the Grand Prix of Dallas. And there is your leader right there, Andy Pilgrim in car number 1, and right behind him is that 32 now? Has Heinrich gone to second position?
Well, we're still got the 37 car, I think, there in amongst the mix there.
Oh, that's the 37 car. You're right. Yeah, the 3 car of Murray is still in second position.
And John Heinrich seems to have dropped back, in fact. That being, oh no, there he comes.
There's a lap car between.
That's the Nick Ham car.
The Nick Ham 01 car.
That's Scott Maxwell. I believe that's Scott Maxwell, and he was up in the top 10, and he looks like he's closing down on the leaders. This could be a story here in the late stages if Scott Maxwell can get that Mustang towards the front now.
Of course, he qualified the Mustang yesterday. His team driver, Jason Priestley, started the race and drove a pretty good race. Had a few running experiences out there. Slight wall contact, a spin early on the competition.
This thing is
right now he's having a good ride.
That's right. This thing is really now a 30-minute sprint race to the finish here, and these guys are really going to be going for it. You see David closing out on the back of Andy Pilgrim there as they go into turn 1. And he's getting on the power a little earlier.
On the inside.
And he's on the inside coming down to what is going to be a left-hander, so he's got the right line now. He's going to squeeze his way by.
And David Murray takes the lead with less than 30 minutes to go. Murray in the car that won the championship last year for Andy Pilgrim now has the point. Pulls away just a bit.
That was a really good maneuver. He got down on the inside going into that right-hander at turn 1, pulled alongside coming out, and then of course he was well positioned for the next longish right-hander. So David Murray snags the lead.
Would you call that textbook?
It was pretty much a textbook, especially considering the condition.
It's turn 7 here. This looks treacherous. The guys are really slowing down. They're obviously being very cautious through there. And look at that BMW sideways there. Nick Ham coming through turn 7, completely sideways. He thinks it's an English summer day out there, and he's really going for it.
Put him on a dirt track in a sprint car somewhere.
Yeah, you know, he was having fun.
Greg, how you holding out down there in the pit lane?
Well, it's a little wet, obviously. However, we've got a bit of a crisis happening down here. You can see right now the number 30 Honda Prelude is dumping fuel. You can see the gas tank has literally come detached from the mount and is dumping all the fuel out on the track. Greg Label was the driver at the time. He's gone to clean up, and I'm with Fred Hutig, who's the crew chief on the team. And Fred, what happened?
The strap on the gas tank came loose. He must have hit something or bottomed out in the track to knock it down. One strap was hanging. Next strap came loose. The tank drug on the wave-by lap, and when we got her to try to fix the car, we smelled gas, and next thing we saw, the tank was leaking.
One of the IMSA officials just stopped by and was telling you something. What's up? What's going to happen?
Well, they're going to bring a fire truck down here, and they're going to hose the gas out so we can get, as if there's not enough water, we're going to put a little more water down so we can get rid of the leaking fuel. We only had a quarter of a tank left, so it should be all over with by now.
All right, again, just trying to make it as safe as possible down here in pit lane.
Well, of course, at one point, that car was leading the sport class. And by the way, Greg, a problem right there. That's the 37 car that had been in among the leaders.
Wow, then he comes out of the wall and nails the 46 car there. Just came out of the wall and set off and hit the 46 cars that came by.
As we get things sorted out there on the backstretch, Greg, earlier you had commented about some lightning down there.
There was a little bit of lightning. We were standing underneath one of the awnings here just trying to stay dry during the yellow. All of a sudden, the sky just lit up, and then it really started thundering down here. So there's a concern. Haven't seen that for a while. Hopefully that's passed.
Pretty good shot on the inside wall there. And unfortunately didn't stay on the brakes, and the car rolled back into the 46 car of Maxwell.
That was the 37 car of Joe Acqualanti and Jim McCallion, and that, of course, as you had already pointed out, Calvin, was a lap down and was staying up there with the leaders, but of course he came to grief at that particular turn. You were just saying a few moments ago, it was so slippery, that 7 corner, and spun around, tagged the wall, and then tagged the 46 car. I think it was the 46 car. There is the car, the 49, the Honda Accord, that brought out the caution flag in the first place. But as you can see, the rain is certainly easing up just a little bit now, so conditions will slowly start to improve.
And a big change here in the championship, potentially. Heinrichs has got around Andy Pilgrim and is now running second. So this is big news here when we look at the championship. We're obviously coming to the close of this now. We've got 2 races left, and every point is crucial at this stage of the game.
So Andy Pilgrim obviously not liking that #1 car with the roll bar, the rear roll bar disconnected as much as the previous driver, so he's obviously not finding it to his suiting at all.
Actually, you said 2 races to go. It's actually about a race and 1/6. We have about a little over 20 minutes to go in this event. And there's a look right now at the current standings as the rain continues to fall here in Dallas.
Network. Yep, it's all original.
After a very lengthy delay because of the weather, we're getting into a pretty good battle now up in front of the Sprint Grand Prix of Dallas, the 3-hour IMSA Endurance Championship in the final 20 minutes or so. Once again, the #3 car of David Murray leads the way, and you can see the gap back to second position, number 32, John Heinrichs. Third position now is Andy Pilgrim.
And those 2 leaders are really pulling away. Wow, see there, Heinrichs tail out as he went through that turn 7 there. You see first and second in the frame. And then at the back of that group now is the #1 car. It's about to be passed by the 46 car, I believe. Is that right?
I'm not quite sure, David. It's certainly a white Mustang. I'm not sure if that's the 46 or not. There's a couple of them running together. It's tough to see on the screen right now. But you see there David Murray coming through the corner, really fighting the car as he's coming through there. He can see that Heinrichs has got up to the second position. I'm sure his crew at this stage of the game is giving him splits, and he realizes that he needs to keep the pace up. And down in the pits, Greg Kramer is with one of the front-running guys.
Murray, who is running so well, just made a pass recently for the lead. The guy that really got that car up into position through some of this torrential rain early is with me, Bernie Cochran, who started off with the #3 entry. Bernie, it was, first of all, a great drive. The yellow came out at a perfect time, then your crew just nailed the stop for you.
The crew did a wonderful job. I mean, the Pontiac fiber was handling so well. The Toyota tires, we put rains on right before the start of the race, and everything worked so good. I'll tell you what, I'm more nervous in here than I was out there right now.
It's understandable. How were the conditions when you turned it over today?
The conditions were very treacherous. We kind of kidded around, and Dave said, I'll get in at the end. Hopefully it'll be dry. And I think it got raining heavier right towards the end, and I was kind of glad to get out of there and get him in there.
Not too bad, though, being able to turn the car over to a driver of Dave Murray's caliber. They're looking for a strong finish here, no doubt.
You see he started 4th, currently up in front.
And John Heinrichs in the 32 car is definitely making ground, and now David Murray is catching up some traffic here in a bad position. He's got to go through the 9 complex, so that's going to slow him down a bit, and it'll slow down his speed onto the straightaway here. Now, that's not the 46 car, was it?
No, I don't think so.
I think that's the 64 car.
Now, Murray is catching traffic in a spot he really doesn't want to catch traffic.
The other thing you talked about earlier, Gary, is the mental exhaustion that places on a driver. Right now, we've got guys that are relatively fresh, obviously, so it's not so much of a factor. But the track is very treacherous, obviously, with the rain, but also all the painted stripes on the road, the different road surfaces, going from concrete to cobblestones back to asphalt. You really have to keep your concentration at 100% and at the same time deal with this lap traffic.
Visibility, though, looks a little better than what we had anticipated it being at this juncture in the race, because it looks like the skies have lightened just a bit. David, you talked about getting this late here in Dallas at this time of the year. It might be very dark if it were raining as hard as it was, 20 laps ago.
That doesn't seem to be a problem now. I thought it was going to get pretty gloomy, but I think the sky is lightening up a bit. It's still raining hard, but not as hard as it was, and I think the sky is clearing a bit. There you see the 32 car of John Heinrichs. He's sliding through that turn 7, and that 16 car coming up behind them, that is the car of Bennett Dorrance and Frank Simon. So I'm not sure whether, in fact, that's not catching up.
Well, Heinrichs is in the 32 car. His teammate is standing by in the pit lane with Greg Kramer.
Well, of course, Heinrichs in the thick of the points chase. Stu Hayner started that car, number 32. You did your job, kept it up front. What's John saying, if anything, and can he get the job done here?
Well, I haven't talked to John since it went back to green. I know that when I got out of the car, it was a real mess out there. I think the rain's lightened up quite a bit now, but It was pretty dangerous out there, actually, with all the hydroplaning and stuff like that. John's in second. I think he got held up a little bit. Now, if he can just catch up, looks like he's doing it right now. He just went by, and if he can catch up, I think we can be with him. Really, the concern we have now is the 70 Mazda. He has so much straightaway speed on all of us that he's catching us about 3 seconds a lap. Because straightaway, obviously, is a place you can go in the rain. You just can't go around the corners. So that's going to make the difference, I think.
All right, and of course, John Heinrich, tremendous experience in this category of racing. He's a good guy to have in the car.
Well, of course, Stu Hayner, not bad himself, a winner of 8 races here in the IMSA Endurance Championship Series. Also was the 88 SCCA Corvette Challenge Series champion and the 88 SCCA Pro Endurance Series champion. So a lot of these teams have some very qualified drivers. Obviously, we've talked in the past over the course of this season that some of the drivers may buy the ride, they bring a sponsorship in, they own the team, they like to ride because they hire a hired gun that is really the shoe. But in this case, in car 32, you got 2 guys that have equal talent.
Yeah, these guys have run with GM and Chevrolet for a lot of years now, and Heinrich does a lot of the testing and development work for Chevrolet, and obviously very experienced. These guys have run a lot together, and they're really, you know, right now, Heinrich has a good 11-point lead over Pilgrim in the championship, and with finishing in front of him here today, this could put him in a very strong position to clinch the championship.
Well, obviously, a lot of questions to be answered in the rain. How many will get answered? We'll find out as we come back. Stay with us. And as you can see, the sky has indeed lightened just a bit, not raining quite as hard as it was earlier as we are back in Dallas. Gary Lee along with David Hobbs, Greg Creamer, and Calvin Fish. And once again, you take a look down the fastest section of this racetrack. That would be on that frontage road along Interstate 35 East, and that is David Murray out in front in car number 3.
Heinrich, he's really closing in on him, but unfortunately for John, he's got the 07 car in between he and David, so he wants to get him out of the way and chase after David and try and put some pressure on. Obviously, they will have radioed to John Heinrich and told them that the 70 Mazda, the Tremblay car, is catching fast, so he's going to be pushing very hard at this stage of the game.
Ooh, gets pushed wide there as he comes onto the straightaway. Probably had to lift a little bit, which is going to lose him some momentum as they come onto the straightaway down into the turn 1 area. Very, very slick here. As you can see, the road up, so he's positively glistening there into this turn 1. Very, very tight and narrow. Again, David Murray in the 3 car. He did that perfect pass earlier on and now has got the lead, but Heinrich is catching him up. Meanwhile, Andy Pilgrim, of course, who was leading, has dropped back into 4th spot now.
Of course, there still is a question, do we have enough time for that turbo Mazda to make its presence felt?
Well, that's going to be, there's not much time left. There really isn't. I guess it's around about
15 minutes or so.
Yeah, 15 minutes or just a tad under.
And he's now in 4th position.
Well, he's sort of making ground, but look at the traffic.
33 seconds between 1st and 4th. So can he make up 33 seconds in 15 minutes?
It's going to be close. I mean, these guys are probably running, you know, they ran pretty quick lap times, obviously, in qualifying, about 1:05. They slowed down a bunch. So that should be about 10 laps and 3 seconds a lap. That's 30 seconds. So it's going to be very close here at the end. It should be very interesting.
And a lot of it, of course, is going to depend on traffic, because there's still a tremendous amount of traffic out there, and any one of them, the number 3 car, the 32 car, or of course the 70 car, just get boxed in at the wrong time, and obviously all your efforts come to nothing.
But really, for the 70 car to be most effective with the turbo power, he needs that dry track to get that horsepower hooked up.
Well, it would certainly help him, and of course he doesn't want too much traffic either, because he doesn't want to get on off the throttle too much. That'll not help him. But it, you know, as we saw in the hands of Joe Varde earlier on, even though it was raining, he pulled out a 40-second lead before his first pit stop. And I still can't help thinking that the team somewhat gave this race away by making that second stop, which seemed to be pretty poor judgment to me. But there again, they know their car far better down there than we do up here.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive how the Mazda pulled away from the field there with Joe at the wheel, as you mentioned, David. And typically a turbo car is very difficult to run under conditions such as this, because the power does tend to come in a little more abruptly as the turbo kicks in, unlike a normally aspirated vehicle.
Passing the 65 car at one time, that was the leader in compact. Now that Norris Mitchell car is back in 2nd in compact class, going another lap down to your leader.
At one stage, it was lying like 5th overall. It was amazing effort in the rain, again, which is the great leveler on horsepower. You can't use it all coming off the corners, and obviously that the drive was helping them here in the rain. There's the 2 car that was running so well earlier on. Conway was right up there in 2nd or 3rd position an hour or so ago, but they have dropped back too.
Loose sheet metal as well.
Right, and I think we just saw the 70 car go underneath our frame there, and this is the 84 car, the Van Cleef car. And they were champions. We saw Eric Van Cleef clinch the championship with that point for pole position earlier yesterday in qualifying, and they're trying to score another victory. They've had 6 wins this year, and they're going after another 1 or 2 victories this year before they maybe change classes for 97.
And Henderson gets a new record every time he wins as the oldest driver to have won in IMSA competition. He just turned 63 a few weeks ago, so he'll establish a brand new record with his victory here this afternoon.
Down that turn 1 there. Tight right-hander. Trying to let the thing hang out.
So the 84 class, or 84 car, is first in class in the sports class.
Showing the 30 car in 3rd, but they've obviously been in the pits with that fuel leak. I would think that that's going to be updated here shortly. But you know, this they're going for their 7th victory of the year, and that's an incredible feat. You see David Murray coming off that turn. He seems to get very wide there. I'm not sure if that's the camera angle or whether that's the line David takes, but you will see a wide variety of lines under these conditions. People find the grip in different areas.
And what we really can't show and do justice to are the off-camber turns. We have a couple of very tricky turns on this race.
Boy, that turn,
you drove it in the rental car a couple of days ago.
And turn 8 and 9 is just unbelievable. In fact, coming down here into turn 2 and 3, it's a big car park in normal everyday life, and it has a big slope to it. And I mean, all these corners, the road slopes exactly the wrong way, that being one of them there. It turns back here is the right way. You got a bit of help there. And then, of course, on this next left-hander, again, it's going the wrong way, the right way. And here it's going the wrong way on this turn 6 here, which is important to get a good leg up to come down this long, fast straightaway.
Guys, race drivers talk about developing a rhythm, but I would think discipline on a track like this is so important, because you have to really tell your brain, I have to go at this speed. I can't try to go faster because I'll end up against the fence somewhere.
Oh, HAYNER did a nice job there. I mean, sometimes you almost have a sixth sense about where another car is, and he got very close to the 0-0 car. Actually ran a little wider through there than he typically would, but that's the artist at work there. HAYNER, he has a lot of time in these cars, and he really did a nice job of getting around that Mustang.
Always a bit of a risk going around the outside of somebody. You've got to really put a lot of trust in their driving ability to maintain that line and not sweep wide and clip you into the wall.
So in the final 10 minutes of the Grand Prix of Dallas, we'll come back and document how it all concludes. Stay with us.
Pick up the phone and call now for your free complimentary issue of Motor Trend magazine, the world's automotive authority. Peterson's Motor Trend tells it like it is, with conclusive reports and comparisons on the world's best new import and domestic luxury cars, sports cars, pickups, vans, and sport utility vehicles. If you really love cars, you need to test drive the ultimate automotive magazine, risk-free. Just call now and reserve your free introductory copy of Motor Trend. If you like what you see, you can order a 12-issue subscription for only $9.97. That's 71% off the newsstand price. It's easy. We'll bill you. If you choose not to subscribe, simply return the bill marked cancel. You'll owe nothing, and the free issue is yours with our compliments. Peterson's Motor Trend magazine is the world's automotive authority. Check us out. Call now for your free introductory issue.
For in-air product reviews, instructional programming, safety tips, and new product introductions in the field of aviation, zero in on the wonderful world of flying, only on Speed Vision.
Well, you can see the sky has cleared a bit. It continues to rain, though, and the leader continues to be David Murray in the Burgundy #3 Pontiac.
Traffic is playing a part here. We see HAYNER in the background. He's closing in a little bit. And David is really pushing hard. I saw him come in at turn 1 about a lap or so ago and really got a little squirrely, got into the brakes a little bit late and overshot the corner a little bit. And he can see Heinrich in his mirrors, and he knows that he's going to be charging hard. And of course, they're all thinking about that number 70 car at Tremblay a little further back down the track.
Wow, the 16 car there, the Mustang with the lights blazing away, had a real squirrely moment going through turn 7. Don't see the 70 car coming into view yet, though. No, we're looking back a long way there, so they're still fairly safe.
Oh, some debris right in the middle of that turn.
Whole front end off a yellow car, or yellow and black car.
Well, right now, David Murray, although he has his rear view mirror being filled up with a 32 car, he has a lot of traffic out in front to negotiate.
Boy, oh boy, there is a lot of traffic, isn't there? It's absolutely incredible how much traffic has stayed in. I think, really, this has been an incredibly
clean race.
Clean race.
The traffic and the conditions.
The drivers have done a great job on these conditions. They've really been very
Everybody from the slowest to the fastest, because the slow guys have got a huge responsibility to try and stay out of the way. At the same time, they're trying to guard their own position, and so it's been some great driving here this afternoon because it's been a difficult day. 3 hours of it.
You talk about trusting somebody when you pass them on the outside. It's very difficult to know who's actually in one of these cars, because with 3 or 4 guys inside of the car, you may have a very good driver, maybe a rather inexperienced driver in the car, and that's a real chance to risk going to the outside.
Yes, you've no idea who it is that's out there. That's for sure.
You can come up on the same car like 2 or 3 laps later, or within 5 minutes, and they've done a driver change, and he may take a completely different line. So that's one of the hazards of doing this type of racing. In you know, some of the different drivers obviously have different styles and different abilities.
You know, the International Race of Champions, they hang the driver's name in the race car. Maybe we should do that here. As they refuel and change tires and drivers, we just hang a new driver's name on the rear deck.
You could do with it, really, because that is true in most forms of racing. You know, you're racing against a car that have the number on the back, and you know exactly who's at the wheel, and you think, oh, this is old Joe Blow, or this is Calvin Fish, so I'd better be a bit careful going by this one. But here, you've got no idea who's in the car. Of course, obviously, our front runners, they're all pretty good drivers are in these cars, so no problem there. But, of course, there's 52 cars started.
Looking back for Andy Pilgrim in car number 1, he was in the fray back there in 3rd position, but he's a long way back now.
Looks like Maxwell may have taken over that 3rd position, the 46 car, and he's running in front of Andy unless he dropped it.
Might be a lap down.
Few laps, but we had him running in the top 10 a few laps ago on the same lap as the leaders, so that may be a change for position.
So Andy Pilgrim not having as good a run in this number 1 car as we saw earlier on. Obviously, it's just not to his liking. There's the 46 car, Scott Maxwell, sliding through turn 3.
18 seconds, the margin now between 1st and 3rd. So it appears that the Mazda will not find victory lane today.
The thing it may do is get in front of Pilgrim, and what that will do is pad the points cushion for HAYNER. HAYNER's running in front of Pilgrim, and if Tremblay can get in front of Pilgrim, that will put him in another position further back.
So a lot at stake with just one more race and a few minutes of this one to run. We still don't see any sign of the Tremblay car coming into the back of the frame there.
And back down Hotel Street. Fastest parts of this racetrack before they downshift, get down to this tight right-hander and across that parking lot. What'd you call that earlier? What do you call a parking lot in England?
Car park.
Car park, okay.
16 car is really going. I mean, he's in front of Heinrich, and he's really pushing the leader pretty hard. So obviously a lap or 2 down, but he's
that
really
might
doing
be
a
Lou
great job.
Gelotti at the wheel. Lou Gelotti's driving that car this weekend, along with Greg, with Bennett Dorrance and Frank Simon. So I'm not sure who's at the wheel. Of course, that's the other thing. We never quite know who's out there in these cars. But it could be Lou Gelotti, and he's pretty quick. And he does a lot of, as you see on Speed Vision, of course, we have the SCCA World Challenge, and of course he's leading his division in that, and obviously doing extremely well here in the rain.
He's a local boy. He's here from Dallas, Texas.
In the waning moments of this one, just about 5 minutes or so to go, and this could be the longest 5 minutes of the race for the driver in the cockpit of number 3.
Wow, now what we don't want here is Lou Gelotti
messing with the leader.
Touching David Murray and pushing him off.
Well, of course, that debris remains out there in that turn. So once again, your leader is David Murray. We're coming back with the conclusion of the Grand Prix of Dallas.
Speed Vision has the best live racing events in September. IMSA World Sports Car from Dallas. The exciting prelude to the season finale. NASCAR qualifying from Dover. Jeff Gordon goes for 3 straight at the Monster Mile. IRL qualifying from Las Vegas. The new Motor Speedway's inaugural race, plus the premiere of Indy 500, the Classics. Relive the greatest moments from the world's most famous race. Speed Vision in September. Catch us if you can.
David Murray continues to lead here in Dallas, the waning moments of this Grand Prix, a 3-hour endurance race. And right now, David Murray is looking for his 9th win in endurance championship competition.
Being hounded by Lou Gilotti, who in turn, and right behind them now is...
Gilotti almost got into him.
That looked close. I don't know what they touched there, but this is the last thing David needs is a lap car putting him under pressure. It really takes him out of his rhythm, you know, and you can see him there signaling to the guy behind him, Lou Gilotti, like, I don't know whether that was...
What are you doing? Was that the signal?
I'm not sure how many digits were involved there, but...
But meanwhile, of course, I think he's going to let him go down the outside here, isn't he? And try.
This is a tough one, David, because, I mean, with Heinrich, he's so close. I mean, he'd like to keep him between the two. And there, David actually clipped that body part in the track there. Hopefully he didn't damage a tire doing that. But he did clip a tire. And there you see Scott Maxwell, I believe. Now it's the sixth. Oh, no, that was Gilotti trying inside David Murray again.
Which is, of course, allowing Heinrich to catch them both up. Ooh, more lap traffic now as they come onto the main straightaway. So David Murray's got a bit of a lead here on to Lou Gilotti. You'll be glad to see that, I'm sure, as they go into turn 1. There can't be many more laps left to run here.
But you have to question Gilotti's strategy right now.
Well, we don't know
really
how he's running, whether he's got someone he can catch up. I mean, these guys are in their own race as well. Okay, they're in with the leaders right now, and they don't want to mess their race up, but they may be chasing another position as well. So,
I mean, this car did qualify in 9th position, so it probably was in with a bit of a chance. Might have gotten out of sync in that long caution period and the pit stops and so on. But he may think he's racing for a position here. I don't know.
Well, he is racing hard, whether it's for a position or not.
He really is. He seems to be really strong under braking. Here you see him. He's going to be very close to David. David's going to go to the right here, and I wouldn't surprise me to see Gilotti try and outbrake him, but nowhere to go. Once again, David takes the inside line. He's really not giving anything away, and he wants to try and keep that white Mustang between he and John Heinrich.
Now, some drivers like to chase, and some drivers don't mind being chased. It really brings out their best. At a point like this, you don't want to mess with a car that's a lap or 2 down.
Right, and David's really very experienced in these types of cars, and we're coming up for the last lap.
White flag, the last lap.
White flag and a yellow flag, so we must have had some sort of incident down at turn 1, is there?
Can't see anything there,
but they had the yellow flag out.
Road. It's a long escape road there, so maybe someone had disappeared down there, but it looks like we're back under green here for this final lap. But
more traffic in front of David Murray now, which is going to make him lift off a little bit. Is that going to put him into the clutches of Lou Gilotti? So a lot rests here on Lou Gilotti's shoulders.
That's right. And the difficulty here as they come onto this back straightaway is that turn 7. If that car in front of him is slow through turn 7, this could really hinder David's progress down the straightaway. Let's take a look. Coming in here, and this is where we see a wide variety of speeds coming through this very treacherous corner, but they look like they're through there pretty clear, and Heinrich has actually dropped back a little bit. And,
there's somebody getting wide, spins around, bangs the inside wall, does a nice 360 and goes. Who is that? I can't see.
Continues
Danny
on.
Sullivan, I don't know. 76, I believe it looked like. 70.
It's on the Nissan. Right.
There you go.
Now off of Reunion East onto Hotel Street. The final time headed for the start-finish line, the checkered flag for David Murray. And still being pressured by Gilotti. Here comes the checkered flag, and Murray hangs on for his 9th victory. And there's the jubilant crew. Bernie Cochran put that car in a position to be victorious. Cochran, of course, started the race in the number 3 car. And again, this is the car that won the championship last year. Let's go pit side, Greg.
Well, of course, Bernie Cochran started the car, but it was Bernie Sr., the dad, that owns the team, put it all together. You got to be so happy.
I'm very happy for the crew, the team, everybody that's helped us here. And I'll tell you, it was a tough day. It really was.
Bernie did a great job. You got to be so proud of him.
Yes, I am. I'm proud of him. I'll tell you, with the Pontiac and with David Murray this year, David's been helping him a lot. It's really helped us.
Of course, it's interesting. The first ever driver's school Bernie took, 1986, I think, David was his instructor. I think he's learned a few things.
He's learned. He's still teaching.
They're happy. They are happy.
Well, you saw how close second position was, and we're checking right now because that would be one of the closest finishes ever in IMSA Endurance Championship competition. The closest was 142 one-thousandths of a second back in '95 at Sebring, and the second closest was almost a half second. So one of the closest finishes ever. Greg?
Well, we talked to the dad. We might as well talk to the son who really started this one off again. Bernie, what a great drive. We were teasing about the fact that 1986, David Murray taught you in your first driver's school. You learned a few things, I think.
Yeah, he was a real good teacher, and here it is about 10, 11 years later, and we're together winning races. I mean, you can't beat this feeling.
David started treating you like the penguin into the pool of sharks, saying it's raining out, you start.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so excited right now. This is great. This is our first win in Grand Sports, and the Pontiac did so well for us today, and I just can't be happier.
Oh, that's a happy crew here. There's no doubt about it, and they earned this one. This is tough conditions. Bernie, congratulations.
I'll be watching on Speed Vision now.
It's always nice to see a fellow commentator do well in a race, and of course David joined us, I believe it was at Watkins Glen in the broadcast booth before his driving stint, and so a big wave from the cockpit. He has to be happy, one, he's won. He has to be happy, two, the race is over and he can go dry off.
He has to be happy, three, that he wasn't run into by Lou Gelati.
Really. And very importantly, Heinrich takes another step towards the championship by that strong finish here today. And is really going to go down to the wire between Heinrich and Pilgrim. And looks like Ford have actually taken over. Actually, Pontiac have closed the gap in the championship for manufacturers down to about a 1 point deficit now on the Ford manufacturers in the points championship there.
And the winner climbs out, grabs a baseball cap, and the teammates embrace in jubilation. As I think we can take a look here momentarily at the top 10 as some of the back markers are headed back to the pit lane as once again the Cochran Murray car takes the victory over Hayner and Heinrich. Pilgrim GOAD there in the third position, the Tremblay VARDE Mazda back and forth, and there is the first in class for compact Phillips and Scavney's, 5th overall and first in class as we continue on through the top 10. Priestley and Maxwell in the 6th position, and you look at the 10th position. Second in the compact class would be Norris and Mitchell. So a couple of good drives by the 65 and the 75 car in the compact class, and we'll come back with more of our wrap up here from the Grand Prix of Dallas.
You know how fast you were going? 72? Yep, 72. Hell, for a while I was fishing out a pen, steering with my knee. Oh, son, you got a 444 barrel in here. All you got to show for it is 72? You know what that is backwards? That's 27. It's 27! 72.
Speed Vision Network. Catch us if you can.
A tough day at the races as rain hampers the Grand Prix of Dallas, but let's go back to Greg Kramer in pit lane.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm with David Murray, who played an integral role here in the first Grand Sports win for Bernie Cochran's team. That must make you feel pretty good.
I tell you, it really does, and it's the first win I've had this year, too. So I got to thank Cochran and Pontiac for running so well, and Bernie and the whole crew did such a wonderful job. I mean, they're the guys that kept the faith and kept working hard. We came out here, John Heinrich ran me hard at the end. It was a close race, and traffic played a large part of the race. And we'd get gaps, I'd gain some, he'd gain some. So I knew it'd be awfully hard for him to pass me once he got up to me. His walls are awfully hard on the outside.
All right, we've already talked about how the student here, Bernie, has learned from David, the instructor. So we're over here to Chris Scavness and John Phillips real quick. Gentlemen, 4th overall, I think, in a compact car. Obviously, it was hooked up.
Yeah, I only have one thing to thank, and that's the rain up above, because that car wouldn't have been anywhere without it. But with the front-wheel drive and the way that car handled in the rain, we were just like on rails and had a good time. And he came
extremely fast car in the rain. We don't have all the power to run with everybody else, but in the rain, it's a great equalizer.
and the car was there.
Well, they're grinning. They obviously had a little bit of fun here. Real quick, let's get Terry Irwin and Gary Blackman. You guys won by some 2 laps in Turing. Quickly, how did that happen? How'd you get up 2 laps, Terry?
Well, we literally had, you know, we had a 6th-place car in the drive, but we had a wonderful rain car. We set it up for the rain and anticipated rain. We were able to get rain tires early in the race and just never looked back. It was just great. And then Gary got in the car and never looked back, and I can't thank Mark Hine and all the guys enough.
All right, Gary, congratulations to you. Absolutely super job. Back up top.
We also will say that Henderson and Van Cleef win in the sports class. So for David Hobbs, Greg Creamer, and Calvin Fish, I'm Gary Lee. Thanks for joining us. So long from Dallas.